Back in 2020, I did a video titled A Horizon Zero Dawn MMORPG. In that video, I discussed an interesting job listing for what could at the time be argued as a potential Horizon-themed MMO. But everything went silent as quickly as the announcement was made. 2 years later, Sony shocked the world with the announcement that they had partnered with one of South Korea's biggest developers to bring to life an MMO adaptation of their enormously popular Horizon intellectual property, adding to their already expanding selection of media like the recently confirmed spin-off and the VR adventure. This announcement was made well over a week ago and is admittedly still taking some time to sink in. As a huge fan of both Horizon Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West, yes, even despite all of the drama surrounding Aloy's, well, in the vocal minority's opinion, less sexy character model this time around. But where in the timeline is this going to be set? Will this be set within the existing franchise, or will it be spun off into its own unique world? Are they planning on cross-platform releases on both PC and console? What about the developer? I plan on answering as much of that as I possibly can, so take a minute here and sit tight. Before we jump into this video though, I do want to thank all of our incredible patrons over on Patreon. You guys do not need to support MMORSSTIX and I, but you still choose to, and trust me, it is appreciated beyond anything I can convey verbally. You guys are incredible, and admittedly, if you have a moment, follow MMORSSTIX and I over on Twitter. We'd really appreciate that. This all started back in 2017 with the release of Horizon Zero Dawn. I spent weeks playing through every facet of the game I could, and admittedly, MMORSSTIX can tell you all about how back when we were just friends, I spent the entire month ignoring her so I could power through both Horizon Zero Dawn and the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Yeah, she still holds a grudge against me for that. This was a gorgeous open world post-apocalyptic action game with an incredible narrative and a strong protagonist brought to life by the incredibly talented Ashley Birch. The sequel, Forbidden West, released back in February 2022 and continued Aloy's journey. And while I haven't heard of anything surrounding a third game in the franchise, and let's be real here, it is all but a certainty at this point, neither game had any type of cooperative nor online features, even despite Sony confirming recently that they wanted multiplayer functionality present in Forbidden West. And it was Guerrilla Games' choice to opt to not include it because they wanted to include this multiplayer functionality in a future title. Studios have learned over the last several years the importance of having multiplayer functionality in their games, and it seems like Guerrilla Games have taken this knowledge and have plans on creating a Horizon game with a strong focus on multiplayer, or, you know what, in this instance, massively multiplayer. The announcement has been covered by every major gaming news website on the internet, but most notably was posted originally onto the South Korean news website MTN. Translating the website, the title reads, NC and Sony promote game IP collaboration Horizon MMORPG. Yes, NC as in NCSoft, the same studio behind the entire Lineage franchise, Blade and Soul, Ion. And you know what? Before you go ahead and throw up in your mouth out of disgust, just relax. I understand. But this is also being handled by Sony, who have a slightly better reputation than NCSoft. Continuing further through the article, we learn that NCSoft and Sony are looking to collaborate on a global project. This isn't going to be an MMORPG exclusive to Korea, nor is it being developed for Korean players in mind, which, I don't know, kind of puts my mind a little bit at ease. Western players are much less forgiving of pay to win in their games after all. They then go on to state that Sony has given them permission to create new games, plural, based around the Horizon intellectual property. NCSoft's internal development team is in charge of developing the game, and as such, it's unconfirmed specifically how much influence either Sony or Guerrilla Games will have over it. Supposedly, Sony and NC are still in pre-development, post-negotiation, so both companies will need to agree to every term before finalizing anything. Interestingly, Anyway, it seems as though the Horizon MMO has been given the working title Project H and will begin development under the Lineage IP business headquarters. I'm not entirely sure if that means that the studio will work out of the headquarters that handle the Lineage franchise, or rather, the Lineage team are going to be focused on developing the game. Hopefully the former, which seems to be the direction that they're going, as NC are actively recruiting developers through job listings in an active effort to expand their workforce. And let me tell you, a game of this magnitude all but requires it. NCSoft's Global Communication Office made a public statement that read, "It is difficult to confirm information about undisclosed projects currently under development. However, there have been a few features that have been leaked thus far. On the one hand, the Horizon MMO is going to be set in the same world as Horizon Forbidden West. They did use the term world here, but it could mean the same timeline, meaning that we might have recurring areas, we might have recurring characters or stories from the prequels present. The game is going to feature full action combat, but as this is NCSoft crafting the game, we don't know if it's going to look and feel the same as the first two incarnations. Realistically, we don't know what the game is even really going to look like at all. NCSoft have a history of making gorgeous games with very Asian-inspired characters. I'm not really sure how well that'll translate to real-life Western character models. The game will be set in a large open world, just like its predecessors, and Sony confirmed that they are going to retain control over the direction the game takes, meaning that Sony and potentially Guerrilla Games will have the final verdict on whether the game is passable or not. And if this game fails, then instead of all of the blame being placed onto NCSoft, it is instead going to be placed onto both Guerrilla Games and Sony. And that is all the info that is released currently. I'm aware that it is a little vague, but unfortunately we're going to need to wait a while to get anything more concrete. What I do know that wasn't elaborated on was that the game is a long way from being ready. Yes, it has entered pre-development, but NC are notorious for taking decades to get their games into a final, playable, launchable state. I highly doubt this will be any different, so expecting the Horizon MMO to release in the next few years is unlikely. 2025? Unlikely. 2028? You know what? This is definitely within the realm of possibility. If anything, we're likely going to be anticipating this game launching around the same time as Ashes of Creation, as Arcade 2, as the new Riot MMO. So, you know, sometime around 2028 to 2030, if the world hasn't imploded by then. But you know what? I could very well be wrong. Who knows? Regardless, a Horizon MMO is something that I am very passionate about, and admittedly, I cannot wait to both see and hear more about it. I really genuinely hope that NCSoft do not ruin this game or delay it as long as Project TL has been delayed. Project TL, now known as Throne and Liberty, was of course delayed for roughly the last decade. Yeah, they don't have the greatest track record here. Now, if you're looking for an MMO that is, well, actually released and playable, then I have two videos on screen right now that won't let you down. One featuring a list of every confirmed MMO releasing in the month of November 2022, this month, and another featuring a brand new old school MMO that MRSSSTIX spent a ton of hours in.